I could see it a place like Blueberry Gas Farm that has animals that some of our kids have never been to a farm and they don't even know what that is like. And I could also see it as a historic little village, Warwick Town, recaptured, just like Williamsburg, as a tourism attraction, which tourism can also bring in revenue. And it would absolutely increase the quality of life of all our citizens. There's not much water access, even though we're surrounded by it. Our citizens don't have that access. So I would definitely want it preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
As a family man, and I did want to acknowledge my beautiful wife who's here with me tonight as well. We are all about the quality of life. And we talk about the quality of life as having the resources and opportunities for us to take our children out to places where they can enjoy this great city, where they can go and run around, have a good time, enjoy the waterfront property. And I would be for making sure that we keep that area, what is already turning out to be a great resource for our families. The Richfield, the park area over there, the dog park over there, the gym center, the gymnastics center over there. Why would we take what we have for a resource for our families and develop it into something that we have many other issues that we could be developing with all the blighted properties that we have in Newport News? We could be using that money to refurbish or redevelop some of those properties instead of worrying about building up another property, which could bring more tax dollars into our city. So when I think about that special piece of land over there, I think it could be a highlight for another highlight for the city of Newport News to bring people here, to have people want to go out, take their families, enjoy an evening out on the water, and just let their children have a good time, because that's what I would like for my children. And when we talk about different opportunities for us to do things with our family, that would just be one more resource on our side of town that we can have and allow our families to come together and be together and support one another in our community.
Excellent. You know, and to piggyback on that, what would you do, and this is a question for everyone, starting with Mr. Harris, what would you do with the abandoned buildings and open space in your prospective areas?
Well, in our North District, we do have quite a bit of abandoned buildings, unfortunately. I know there's a project that has been passed, and Dr. Woodbury can probably speak to it better than I can, with the shopping center on Warwick and Denby Boulevard that is going to be adding some businesses to that area. But one of the areas that I'm particularly concerned about is the old Kmart area that has been left abandoned for a while, in which I would love if we could work out somewhere we can make that a resource center for some of our families, from our teenagers, whether it's the counseling. We talked about counseling programs, we talked about art programs, we talked about academic programs, tutorial services. That's a prime space for a lot of our students that live in that courthouse area that could be benefited by use of that building, whether it's a resource center or something. That the other vision that I had for that building would be a performing arts center, in which we have a lot of young people who are engaged in the arts, theater, music, in which I know we have a performing arts center on the south side of town. I know we have a performing arts center in the central side of town, which is my old high school, the Ferguson Center for the Arts. And why can't we have a performing arts center such as in the North District, in which we could have our young people use that as a way to continue to own their skills and find better ways to constructively to use their time, instead of just walking around and finding negative things to get into. Because one of the things we do have in our community, in the North District, I can speak so to, is a lot of gang issues. We have young people not having anything to do, so what do? They find a group of friends to get together and find trouble to get into. I had a young lady in my office this morning that was talking about a gang she has or is affiliated with in the Warwick Lawns area, and that just recently one of her friends was shot at. But these are things that people don't, some news that doesn't get reported, but these are stories that I hear. And why is this happening? Because they have nothing to do. They can't go, everybody can't get into the community center, everybody can't make it over to places where we're having parks and rec programs, and that's another thing I'm passionate about. But going back to the buildings, we can find ways to turn some of those buildings into productive use for our citizens, instead of just letting it sit there and putting a block on our city.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Dr. Woodbury.
Yes, actually, when we rode by today, I saw that the person who bought the shopping center on the Warwick and Denby has already made a transformation out of that shopping center. It really looks wonderful. And actually, the old Kmart, the shopping center there are plans that a Kroger, a big Kroger store is slated to go in there. But we do have, I think the idea is wonderful about turning some of these blighted areas into areas for our young people. I know that one of the people, there was a Methodist church over on Harpersville, that the young man took the old, he's turned it into a skate park, and they have mentorships there. He is related to that church. He has it, and they have bikes that they ride on these inside. Have you been there, Vision? Yeah, it's a very good use of that property that was empty. So we can be creative in that and try to get those things going. And it's true. It used to be that the South District was the only ones that had gangs. And then all of a sudden, we know the gangs are up in the North District and some even in Central. But I want to tell you that we have started a program 3 years ago, and $1.1 million the first year and $1.4 million this year. This is the third year. We'll go toward a summer program called STEP, which is about getting young people from the ages of 14 through 24 ready to take jobs. And what happens is that funding is done for youth and gang violence. To try to go out on the street, we have outreach workers who go out on the street and recruit these young people and teach them job skills, job readiness, making sure they know how to interview, how to make a resume, and then the businesses in the community hire these they don't hire. We pay, the City of Newport News pays those young people to go to a job and find out what it's like to get a job and how they can get out of poverty by having jobs. And so that 6-week program is already been expanded from the South District all the way up to the North District this summer, and I hope it'll be citywide next year, called the STEP program. And it's beneficial to our small businesses that you were talking about because they get free labor, and it's beneficial to our young people because they learn how to get a job and hold it, and they are trained that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Woodbury. Again, the question is, what would you do with the abandoned buildings and the open space in your prospective areas? Ms. Allmondjoy.
Being a former real estate broker and owning my own firm for a number of years, I could tell you I have 5 great ideas. One, back home in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we had a dollar project where the police officer or a citizen can get a house for $1. By setting up such a program would help a lot of residents who want home ownership, and they can get assistance with remodeling the home so it can be livable. Or you can have the police move in. That will also help with public safety. Number 2, negotiate selling those abandoned buildings to small businesses. Many individuals want to start a business. They can't afford a lot of the rent that they have to pay in a commercial aspect. But they can get an abandoned home and it gets renovated so that they can have their office there. A tax office would be there, or a daycare. We can start promoting our small businesses, especially on the South District. Back home in Milwaukee, we have murals to build the community morale. Have you noticed the South District morale is horrible? Well, morale. On many of these abandoned buildings, you can go straight down Jefferson Avenue. I'm thinking of one, I think it's on 19th and Jefferson. On the left-hand side, it's all paint. The paint is chipping off and everything. Instead of them looking at a ratchet wall, let's put something in there encouraging. Harriet Tubman if you want. But let's put something positive to make the community feel better about themselves. The 4th issue, in regards to abandoned buildings, we can definitely target the youth. Have a youth cafe. Many people don't even know what that is. Do anyone know what a poetry house is? Where you can go sit, read poetry, have non-alcoholic beverages, let your feelings out. Some children, like they mentioned before in the other forum, have been bullied. Some children have issues and they need an outlet. Well, we can have a youth cafe with those abandoned buildings. Not all of them, but some of them for the youth. Have it operated for the youth and by the youth. And the fifth one, the one that really got me, many people don't know, once you get a felony, you can't get housing unless you go through a private agency. I don't know if you know this. So if you want low-income housing because you have no source of income, and you go to a HUD-funded location, you can't get housing with them. So what do we do with 56% of the people who have criminal records in the South District who can't get housing? Well, there's a huge abandoned building. It was a hospital downtown. If they turned it into a loft, that's what we did in Milwaukee, that's what they did in New York, we can do it. By turning it into a loft, we allow those individuals who can't get assistance with housing, is having a difficult time to pay for rent, to actually move into this abandoned hospital that's been renovated so that they have a place to stay. So those are my 5 ideas with abandoned buildings.
That's great.